Hey there, everybody. Today is May 9th. Let's take a walk in the woods. I know, this is crazy. We never come in from this direction. To the left here, you can see some gooseberries, some goji berries, more goose and goji, along with some lavenders. I still have down in here, maybe I did get through all of them. I guess I got through all of them. I got through all of my Aronias. But before I planted them out and healed them into these spaces, I did scatter a whole bunch of seed in here. Now, I don't remember which seed I scattered in here, so this little patch right here, super exciting. Down as we get over into this area, you can see a few of the logs. Those were pulled from up that way, just to pin down some of the goji branches, and those have really enjoyed being tip layered, so we're going to move forward with that. The hascaps up by the front of the wall are in full bloom, and our gooseberries are actually doing pretty much the same. Let me get in here for you. So these are the little inflorescences, and then these will turn into little druplet berries, and I will have a really hard time getting them all. There are Jerusalem artichokes somewhere in this patch here. Those generally come up a little bit later, and it also partly depends on where the voles are going to have spread things to. But as the understory to those, although, I don't know about that. So, as the understory to those, we have some small alliums, yarrow, and strawberries. Once you get in this little ring here, we have some comfrey that is just outside the duckyard. And then we have a few more comfreys inside the duckyard. But that's another walk. We're going to keep going. I put a whole lot of effort into these paths last year so that when I get to this spot, I can move down this way. We've come up this path a number of times, but today we're going this way. And so this is above where the Beaver Dam berm analog hillside is. And these have settled pretty nicely in the winter weather. Those of you who were around for a while may remember that there was a tree in here that I said probably wasn't going to last very long. And it died this winter when another branch fell on it. But let's take a little mosey in here and see if we have anything sprouting. I do see some grasses. Those are probably left over from some of the hay from the ducks and the rabbits. But I also see tiny pops of green, like this guy right there. There are a few others. They're starting. This space is a little bit behind the things that are in the field just because it is so shady and cooler, and the heat just doesn't translate quite as much. I don't see too many. Oh, I see some green species. A lot of these might be weeds, but we'll see. Last fall, I had cut all of our bolted lettuce and dropped them into this bed here and this bed here. The portion down there and the last one before you get to the birch have not been seeded out because I haven't decided what I want there yet. And that's okay. Rather than trampling through those gardens, we're going to head slightly back uphill. And we're now on the path either to my dirt pile, if you were to go straight that way. But we're out behind the duckyard. So we're gonna take a little mosey this way And we have, try to stay out of the light this time better than I did on the last one, but we have some elders coming up. I'm hoping that you can see that. Yeah, there it is. Right there. That little bippy. So there's that guy. And then I have another one. And then another one. And then another one. And I'm pretty sure that's an arum over there. It's A-U. It's not A-U. It's A-R-U-M. Arum. But there are a couple of plants that look similar in their early stages. And it could be lady's slipper, or it could be a wild sarsaparilla. I am not well versed on telling them apart, to be honest. As we come down this pathway here, I am, I guess, not disappointed. You know, it's always a risk planting something back here. But these guys, the grapes, did not seem to like it so much. They have died back on the stem. You can see right here where I did my little scratch test with my fingernail. It's brown underneath, so I know that all of this is dead. And what I'm going to do is leave it in place and not really mess with it. The garlics seem to be really, really loving it. So I don't think that it was voles doing it. It may have just been the wrong kind of soil, or something was not quite right for them. But I also have learned from a lot of times failing to read the signs, I'm not going to pull them. I'm going to leave them there. A, as a reminder that I really want grapes there. And B, because it's possible that the tops died back. You know, we did have a lot of snow coming off of these trees that are overhead. And so it's possible that they were damaged, or there was just too much snowpack on them and the tops died back. But the roots might be fine and they may grow back. And if I pull them, I'll have a real hard time not damaging any roots that might be there. So I'm just going to wait and leave it be. It's this time of spring where the overhead, the overstory, the canopy species haven't fully leafed out yet. They're working on it. You can see the buds trying to pop, and they're working their way. But it's this time that all of the little spring ephemerals start popping up and coming in. The younger beeches and birches will start to leaf out more quickly than the oaks and the maples do, in my experience, or at least on our site. But could be a little bit different. The circumstances at your place might be a little bit different. In this area here, you may remember that we had planted some monardas and some strawberries, and I had some blueberry cuttings. I don't think they did very well at all. I haven't been able to spot them, but we'll see what happens. One thing that I did notice the other day was a particularly happy little Shepherdea, but at the moment it truly escapes my sight. I just can't see it. I just can't see it. Sorry guys. I wish I could. I sure do. I'm seeing some of my raspberries that I stuck as cuttings in here starting to leaf out. We'll come around in just a moment. But there's something I want to show you guys. I'm pretty excited about it. So this is our main little avenue here. This is our main tractor path leading up, and we have kind of a wetter, swampy-ish. It is land that is wet at times. But so this is our main turnaround, and we'll eventually head over to the pond. But the really great thing is over this way. I'm super excited about it because I I wasn't sure what was going to happen from this. So last year, I had a whole bunch of pots that just weren't going to fit in the greenhouse space and my overwintering space inside the house. And I have a cat that will just murder plants. So I took a whole bunch of pots that just weren't going to fit, and I just kind of dumped them. I dumped them in the woods. There's tree litter similar to that and to all of that underneath this space here. You can look back through some of our older videos if you'd like to see what this space looked like last summer. But so, for those of you who are like, how could you just plant random things in the woods? Let's remember, everything in the woods is deposition. And that's the whole goal of this site, is to dig as little as possible and to build on top of the successes that have come before us, just like other good designs. It's iterative. So what we did is plant natives that I had potted up. So standard yarrow, which is Achillea millefolium. We have Shepherdea canadense, which is a wolfberry. And then, I don't want to disturb this lovely spiderweb. Can you guys see it? I don't know that you can. She's there, though. And then some monardas. I did try very, very hard to only plant the didymas out here because I have more of them. There is some red clover in there. That's fine. It's fine. It will really prefer having full sun, so I don't know that it's going to really take off. But it'll be a nice little forage for the woodland bees and the mason bees that are in these stones, and the carpenter bees that are in all of these logs, I'm sure. And so we took yarrow and monarda, and more yarrow, and I threw a couple of small things of small leguminous Fabaceae members. But I also, just as an experiment, I stuck this goji berry in here, and it's loving life. I'm very happy with it. Pretty good. It's going pretty good. It's going pretty well. As we make our way over to the southern side of our property, I'm just gonna take a little peek over here. You can see right in there, my hostas are coming back. They aren't too much to look at just yet, but they're coming. It's the anticipation that gets me. All of my crassulaceae, all of the crassulas and the hylotelephiums in here did great. I have a few more succulents that are on their way to me from various friends. And so I'm hoping that this whole rock structure that we have here will just kind of grow in its awesomeness. I'd like to add some gold and some reds to it as well. But yeah, I think it's great. It's coming along nicely, and everything is spreading from its original position in there. This raspberry cutting, very, very slow to wake up. The other raspberry cutting doesn't look like it's waking up. All of this tree mess, still haven't gotten around to clearing it. I think, honestly, if I can clear some of this, it may allow some of these trees to kind of feel more comfortable and move a little bit better. And I think that, well, I mean, we're past the part of the year where the sun's really in this section. It's more overhead. So I don't know how much bang for the buck I'm going to get from clearing, but that's mulch and that's sawdust. It's a lot of green material that'll take a long time to break down. And the more I think about it, the more I think that some of the prevalence of the bittersweet in this forest is just because the forest is so hungry for more material to be deposited. Here we have Sambucus canadensis. This is the Samel variety, which, according to my source, is the most native to this region. I don't know how true that is, but it's supposed to be a really solid one. looking forward to it. It seems like a good grower. These little choke cherries, the chokeberries, Aronia melanocarpas, they're loving life in this little protected spot. They've got some nice sun and some good residual heat from these dark trees and the stone that's right by them. They're protected from too much runoff from the grade of these stones, which slopes away from them, and they can get a gentle soaking in from the grade that they have leading to them. I'm pretty happy with it. They're doing great. These raspberries down below, apparently planted with some acorns from the squirrel. It's coming along. It's a little slow. And patience is the name of the game. What's interesting is that the smaller cutting over here, and I mean it's smaller in diameter. This guy's going hard. Look at him. It might just be a little wetter over here where this is a lower spot. That's something to keep an eye on. I wonder how they'll each do comparatively this season. I hope you guys are hoping to see how it goes. The walkways back here have made just all the difference in the world as far as being able to come out and observe what the water level is like in the creek and how the water is interacting with the roots of these older trees. And I mean, look at that flare, you guys. That's a root flare. Oh yeah. That's a great tree. So, the swampy, marshy bit. Sometimes I get asked why I want this kind of standing water, and I don't always have an answer. Today I have a part of an answer. Part of the answer is that I want more vernal pools out in the woods, such that more and more salamanders and other amphibians can find habitable spaces to rear their young, or at least lay them and then let them fend for themselves, because nature is metal. But so I've also seeded out a ton of things like high bush cranberry, Aronias. I have stuck cuttings of elders throughout here. Most of those have died, and that's okay. I can always take more cuttings. And we're just kind of slowly building up. Each year I deposit a little bit more leaf material on these huge fallen trees. Most of these I didn't cut down. They were falling or fallen when I came through and cleaned them up so I could rest them on the ground more. But it's coming together. It's just that annual deposition builds up more and more, and the more that we get other folks deciding to help us out by dropping off bits of wood or leaf bags or lawn clippings. One of our new neighbors doesn't want to compost, so they're going to let us compost. And you know what? Great. So we're just walking back through on this other side. And it looks like a clover down there, but I'm willing to bet that it's not. It might be. We'll see. A lot of things get seeds into those pots during the end of the fall, so I think it's fun to see what pops up in them. I'm gaga over these plants right here. These look to me to be similar to the black Cohosh, however you pronounce it. That's what these look like to me. I'm not sure how many other plants share those same characteristics. Once we get back up to the field, I'll show you guys what I'm talking about. But here's another one right in here. There's another one hiding under this shrub. There's a few more over by the pond. So over in this garden bed, I have a few raspberries and wolfberries planted out underneath the hay. But the hay did cover a whole lot. I kind of lost track of a bunch of things, so we'll see what pops up. I'm hesitant to step too hard in here, but there are certain spots that I think are going to be okay. You can tell that the deer liked the spot. And I mean, if they want to browse it, that's fine by me. So that cutting doesn't look like it's doing anything. Looks like I have a few others. I see a small raspberry leaf nearby. That looks like something got dug up. No. I don't see any of my other special ones coming up. We'll see what comes up later this season. I'm sure it'll be good. And if not, we'll just plant more into it. I saw another birch down over on the other side of the creek the other day, but I didn't feel like dragging it back. It was just so sopping wet and like really falling apart, like old, like I missed it. So we have 2 small towers for production of birch polypores in here. These are medicinal mushrooms. You can dry them and make them in teas, and I think that they're wonderful. I have a few that look to have fallen off, so we'll clean those up. We'll spread them to some of the other birch trees and keep that cycle going. At the base of this tree here, last year, we built up a huge circle to protect the roots as we were coming through with the tractor building the path. And so this gave us a good way to see where some of the roots were being exposed from the weathering from this hillside up here. So the water would come down and it would hit over here, and we were seeing undercutting around the base of this tree. Now, we stayed very respectful of the root flare. We went way far out. Do I think that this is outside the scope of the tree's leaves? No. I think that stuff over there isn't even outside necessarily the scope of all these trees. So, you know. Do I think that it's going to be harmful, though? No, I don't. We were very respectful. We gave it next to no soil. This is mostly just leaf litter and very, very finely shredded carbons. But we did plant into it some strawberries and a few more hostas because I just want displays. But you can see the trillium or arum or sarsaparillas popping up in here as well. This little bit of hillside right here is just an explosion of ferns in the summer. And so I wanted to bring a little bit more variation as we're starting to get some of the spindly boys just past the fiddlehead stage. So there is a hosta on each corner. You may be able to see them coming up, but if we were to come around in here, complete with a little step in to the garden itself. It's designed, you guys. In here, we have some more of the Shepherdillas. You can see that this guy got a little lost from his mulch. But then way up in the top here, another thing that I have done was planting out some of the Amelanchiers. And so this is Amelanchier canadense. It is the, I think its nickname is the shadblow serviceberry. I could be wrong. And so I have a few root cuttings in here. This is not necessarily a permanent spot for all of them. I may come back in and dig out the ones that are not doing as great in this spot in favor of one that is doing better than the others. But we'll see how that goes. I'm going to take a little walk over to the pond, show you guys what's been eating all of my time lately, aside from being up in the field. So all of this wood you see piled on the side here was in the pond. There are still a few bits of trees that I was just not able to get, but that's okay in a natural pond setting like this, particularly where we do have wild ducks in the area in addition to my own truant vagabonds. Small things like the pine tree bough that you can't really make out, or this downed tree that I have not cut back in the dry periods. Those serve as shelters for the young tadpoles. They serve as anchor points for the clutches and sacks of frog eggs, and they make it a nice little spot for all of the little amphibians that are just kind of doing their thing in here. I'm talking to you guys, and I really feel like the timbre of my voice is going to drive some of the tadpoles away. So if we don't see any, I'm terribly sorry. I promise they're in there. So we pulled out all of this wood. I pulled out all of this wood. I didn't want to break up more of the bank with the tractor, and I didn't want to grind myself down into the ground trying to drag them out, and so it was pulling them up with a winch and some tow cable, and brute strength and a couple of pulleys to help maximize my force output, and I would just cut them as I pulled them out, trying to clear their branches to prevent more drag and keep it from creating more destruction on the bank. So I've laid up just about all of it now. And with this flush of light in here that's coming now, because the ones to our left that fell were blocking a ton of morning sun to the area that we are in now, because the sun during this time of year comes up right about there. And so in this section there were lots of little understory plants that are now getting a whole lot more sunlight during the morning. Some of them happen to be highbush blueberries that are over there and fully flowering. Some of them happen to be the little native starflowers. Some of them happen to be little grasses, or other blueberries. We have some low bush that you can see just at my feet. And so my plan, kinda, is this summer to take as much of these out of this little spot here as I can, because I want to have just a path going right through the middle of this. I feel bad, but I gotta do it, because if I could have a path that just kind of snakes over here and brings you into this zone 4 and 5, the wild space out there where there's kind of a suggested trail and then it just kind of stops, and it becomes your own place that you want to walk out there, what you want to do. It's great, right? I'm not taking you guys all the way back there right now, though. Let's do the rest of this little walk. So I have these small clearings right in here, another one right in there, another one right in there, where you can see I've started chipping away at one of the dirt piles from the creation of the pond. And I'm trying to be respectful of these maples that are in here, but at the same time, they would make nice firewood, and it would give me the ability to begin creating more active sugar trade networks to the soil and the surrounding vegetation in here and give me more of that pillowy structure that we want. So that's kind of the plan. It's what I'd like to do. In here, more berms and beds. I have a small patch of high bush blueberries in here, and I think this pine is going to have to go. It is looking pretty sad. So is the one right here, just to our right. That one has had multiple years and multiple trunks replaced due to beetle damage. And I think that it might just be time to bite the bullet and drop it so that it creates an avenue for more sunlight to hit the blueberries and allow them some greater production, and also bring some more energy to the berm where I'm hoping to plant a number of things next year. So that's a thought that we have. I'll admit that I haven't really planted out back here quite as aggressively, but with the small clearing projects and adding all of this carbon material to the woodlot, I'm interested to see how the system reacts to it all before I go charging ahead again. I feel like one of the greatest mistakes we can make is thinking that if we just install it all at once, it will work, but every interaction you have produces a second interaction, a reverberation. It's a ripple that, for example, I put a brush pile on the hill there. That slows the water, which increases the hydration. That hydration feeds more plants over here, but could also cause the more heavily saturated portions to become even less stable for the trees that are standing, but might have difficulty in high winds because of the increased saturation during a rain event or a high water table event. So how do I navigate that? I navigate it by going slower. Sure, I can put in that little berm and catchment, and then I can observe how these trees fare and how the plants down closer to the pond fare. And then what I can do is plan based on the newer information, the more up-to-date, the more accurate, and the one that shows what the system is moving towards. That said, I did go kind of crazy buck wild planting things out in here. Very young Aronias, more of those little seedling whips. But also, every time I was out here eating fruit, I would spit seeds. Every time I got new seeds in and I started putting them into boxes or starting to put them into germination protocols, I would take a walk and throw them. Scuff up some earth, throw some seeds down, kick some dirt back over them, keep on walking. So we'll see how things go. I think it'll be fun. So we're coming out of the woods now. Back up into our yard with its other food forest. The strawberries and the chipolin are going hard. The monardas are catching up. I'm seeing more and more small echinaceas and other things coming back, which is just a wonderful, wonderful feeling. And pretty soon all of this is just going to be covered in green. But I wanted to do a full garden tour for you guys. I don't think I've ever walked you through like everything that we have all at once. So yeah, here we go. Blackberries and some house caps and a hazelnut. We have some chives. Those are Grandpa Stober's chives. We have some Hylotelephiums, and we have an Amelanchier. I believe that one's the laevis. We're going to step right on some mint. It's a chocolate mint. I was right. This one is Amelanchier laevis. Laevis? Who knows? I don't speak Latin. This Wolf River apple, looking pretty happy. The apple tree over by the garage, next to the house, it's all those white flowers up there. That guy's in full flower. This guy and my little Honeycrisp behind it, late to the party. But this guy is leafing out more fully and with bigger buds than I've seen it in previous years, so I'm very hopeful. I hope that it does well this year. Most of our original depositions of wood chips several years ago are almost completely broken down. And so it's exciting to see the garden transitioning into more woodland species. We are getting grasses coming in again, but where I don't do barrier plants for these, more relying on shade and encouraging some of the grass. We'll see how it goes. You can see over here, I'll come around this other side. We have the black Cohosh coming up. It was wet enough this year, so you can see why I think those guys look similar. It might be a blue. I know that there are others that are native to this region as well. We have a whole bunch of raspberries growing in alongside Siberian pea shrub. The Siberian pea shrub is getting cut back hard this year. We have a pear that my wife wanted, and then I wanted to train it. And right where you see that little guy, that little piece of hose, I broke it. I was trying to train it. I hulked it. I apologized so deeply. And then immediately took one of my wraps from when I do train the trees properly and applied it to there. So far, looking pretty happy. If I got those cambiums lined up, we're in business. And so we have a whole lot more raspberries. These guys are second year, and so I'm expecting to get a whole bunch of berries off of the side shoots here, and then we'll stick these down into the ground and root up another whole ring of them. We have some comfreys. We have an asparagus over there that I didn't notice before when we were walking past. Look at that guy go. And so this is my Amelanchier alnifolia. I'm like 90% sure it's the alnifolia. We're going to take a look at the tag real quick. Look at all those flowers though, guys. They're so great. Yeah. Alnifolia. So, this guy, I got like no flowers on it last year. This year, all flowers all the time, and they're gorgeous, and it smells amazing. And if I time it right, I might be able to get like 5 or 6 berries before the birds do. Who knows? We have some more comfreys on my standalone tulip right there. That's okay. I've shown you guys this bit recently. I still have to come through and harvest some of the grasses and lay those down, but we are seeing garlics popping up. The new additional rhubarbs are doing great, and we have some cuttings that are finally leafing out and looking pretty happy, but I'm not going to pull them yet to check the roots because that's foolish. They might be stress leafing. They might have very, very, very weak roots that cause them to break if I were to pull them out of the ground right now. So, this is my little Honeycrisp apple. I haven't seen as many flower buds on this guy, but we'll see. One thing that I do want to point out over here is this guy. So, you'll notice a slight difference between this one and the one that was over under the other apple tree. This one right here is Symphytum officinale, the English comfrey, real comfrey. It's not sterile. I don't know where that one came from, but it's not sterile. And so if you see really, really pinchy, twisty leaves on your comfrey, you may want to nip the flower buds off before they begin to set seed. If you have the Symphytum uplandicum, which is the Russian comfrey sterile cultivar Bocking 14, you'll have broader leaves. We're going to make our way to another one, and I'll be sure to call it out. This is another Amelanchier laevis, and to the north and slight east of it, we have a whole bunch of marshmallow as this upper boundary here, and to the other side of this phlox that you see are hopefully still a whole bunch of Jerusalem artichokes. And what's been really, really nice about this little section of garden here has been seeing all of the wine cap mushrooms that just love that deep shade that's created from the Jerusalem artichokes and from the marshmallow stems. It's just incredible how rich that shade is and how beefy those mushrooms are. I highly recommend trying out that pairing. I think if I were really wise, I'd have some Apios americana, the American groundnut, in here too as a nitrogen fixer for the whole group. That might be something to do for this year. And so we'll come over in here. So this is the Russian comfrey, and you can see the difference in the foliage. It's apparent. It's very clear. I hope that it becomes as clear to you guys as I feel it is. But Russian comfrey, big, broad leaves. English comfrey, skinnier, twistier leaves. My Nanking cherry is almost done with its flower set, but I had so many on each of these stems here. You can see all of the little fruits that I'm gonna get, maybe, if the birds don't beat me to it. And in here, this is our little new garden bed that we installed together, guys. Look at all them little strawberries popping up. They're so happy. The huckleberries, a little slow to wake up. I feel like this might be a little too much sun for them, but they're gonna have to suck it up, you know? While they're not buttercups, this is the spot that I've chosen for them for this season. We may readdress it. I must have gotten some strong winds while I was out earlier today. What are you? Oh, you're a bush bean I planted. Look at that, you guys. He's going hard. Oh, there's another bush bean. Oh, yeah. You can see a little raspberry dude going hard. We're going to pull some of this back over, though. I won't make you guys sit through it, though. I'll come back in just a moment and do it. As we make our way up to almost the last set of beds, we have my New Jersey tea. That guy right there. It kind of looks, well, I've got a long sleeve shirt on to protect the tattoo, but I'll show you guys the tattoo later. So that's my favorite plant in the world. It's awesome. You should grow it. But in here we have the sister to the other plum that's down there. More Russian comfrey and monardas. I have a tricolor willow and my other Amelanchier alnifolia. Some more of the Cohosh or Hosh. Down in this understory here, we have small lingonberries. I have a few different cultivars, but I can't tell you at the moment which specific ones they are. Some of these were actually associated with other asparagus, or with asparagus, just in case the ground was too wet for the asparagus or it was too dry for the lingonberries. So far, they grow okay together. I don't think that it's necessarily like the most bang for your buck pairing, but it doesn't not work. You can see another huge purple asparagus over here. That's with my finger, just about. huge. One more year and I could actually enjoy those plants as food. So we get to my other plum tree, middle of its flowering period. It just looks gorgeous. I love, not that I leave very often, but when I'm coming home and I see this and some of the Amelanchiers in bloom, it's heartwarming. And I just get so happy about it. We had a few sorrels that I had transplanted in here. This one is a lemon sorrel. It seems to be okay. I won't say that it's the happiest. The wood chips that it came from were considerably more aged than in this, and I believe I amended their soil a little bit better than I have over here. But they'll make it. We have a goji that had died back pretty hard. It's not in as protected a space as the ones over in the duckyard are. So that may be a consideration for you folks if you have a spot that gets a decent amount of wind. You can kind of see, if you watch the grass here, it's just a constant low grade up the hill, sometimes down the hill, but it's very much north to south winds for a good portion of the hostile, or guys, not hostile, but on the harsher times of year on the plants. So this might not be the best location for it, but it's good information for when I do plant more. Slightly more protected spot, something that's not going to rattle the canes as much, might be a worthwhile planting strategy. And so we get into some more lavenders and some more sorrels up here. I have a handful of different mints. There is chocolate mint down in the furthest apple bed, and then we have a mojito mint, and then an apple mint in this one, along with the ones I mentioned earlier, some lavenders that I still have to come back and cut. And then up in here is the last of the little food forest beds. We have a third hazelnut. These are the Corylus americana. I'm like 99% sure I got that right. These are the shrubbier forms from what I have seen. They probably will form thickets if I leave them alone or encourage it with more compost. But we also have Calycanthus. It's the American allspice. And my pawpaw. I'm going to step in here and show you guys what happened. So every growth tip this year got bit. Every single one. Just nipped. Right at the buds. But it's coming back. We have the green up happening. You can see him going. This guy is protected for a huge portion of the day by these. So it gets a little bit of afternoon sun, but generally not too harsh. It's still at around 2 o'clock in the afternoon when the sun is reaching, the end of its hottest period around here. There's still a little bit of protection from these last lateral branches. We have more hascaps in here. Both of those have been beckied with a pot around the base. And inside the pot around the base, I'm just slowly building up mulches and things. These guys, this year, I will pull these buckets come fall and we'll split out everything and try planting out more of them. More of the Russian Symphytum uplandicum, the Bocking 14. I had 2 more golden raspberries that I found. They did not look happy, but I stuck them in the ground anyway. There's a little bit of green under the bark, and we'll see if they come back. For a few minutes of labor, digging in some soil that's been conditioned by wood chips for a number of years, it's not too bad. And then this is the sort of newest of the gardens, I guess. These Amelanchiers were planted last fall. These were the ones that I took a number of root cuttings off of because they were so pot-bound, but they seem to really like this little protected space here, so I'm glad I picked this spot. My Lindera, slowly pushing back from the brink. I don't know if this branch on the right is going to make it, but the one on the left is pushing new growth. So we'll see. I may end up babying that. If you guys have any advice, and honestly, looking at the time on this video, if you made it to this point, you're awesome. Let's say the secret word for today's video is shad blow. I'll pop it on the screen in the editor so that you know what to comment, so that I know that you watched all the way to the end. But so, this is Amelanchier canadense, and it's absolutely loving life. I did leave a few of the root cuttings that I'd harvested from them in this bed too, and we'll see how those do. But as we move along, you'll see some of my my new hostas, and possibly some of my new gingers. Another hosta. Where's my gingers? There's one. Look at how happy that little guy is. It's sure trying. I'm going to bring it a little bit more fertility and probably give it a little bit more water because it's been a little dry since those last rains. But, yeah. More of the hostas, getting ready to create more shade. And the more shade you can give to all of these wood chips, the more water they're going to retain, the more that the animal life is going to interact with them, the more nitrogen that's going to be deposited by their manures or acted upon by their cellular biology in the case of the microbiota. It's fantastic. Just keep covering up the wood chips. I think one of the hardest things that I had to get into when I started gardening with wood chips was the time span for the breakdown. But if you can shade it with live plant material while you're pumping sugars from below it, it really works out pretty well. So this portion of garden here, all of the trees, really for display. We have a few weeping cherries and a few Japanese maples, and those guys are doing okay. This middle cherry here is not the happiest camper. I think that it still kept the pattern of encircling roots at its base, and so I haven't dug it up yet. I won't take it out until it tells me that it's really given up the ghost. But if I get too many more water sprouts on it, I may have to second guess that. But so display trees for the nice, but then we have more hascaps and raspberries. In here, I will also plant small garlics and onions. But then we have irises and daylilies, more hascaps, blackberries, raspberries on a trellis. Tons of comfrey to act as fertilizer for all of these. Tons and tons of things like the Agastache foeniculum, which is the anise hyssop. One of the blue giant hyssops. It's gorgeous and it's aromatic and it's crazy good. Good King Henry's and more marshmallow. My peonies, which are someone else's peonies that they, in their graciousness, planted before I got here, and I love them. And then, as we get to the end, we start getting into my little sorrel patch. Some more hascaps, tons of strawberries, and more anise hyssop, and then small garden flowers, because I think that bridging that gap between a pure permaculture food system and the kind of cottage gardens that people are more used to is a worthwhile endeavor. I think that it can kind of ease that transition where you have bright normal flowers, quote unquote normal flowers in this area. But as you get further and further in, you see more and more and more food and function. And it's not to say that the function can't be beautiful too, but beauty is its own function sometimes. And so in here is mostly strawberries and blueberries. I have 2 Clethra alnifolias to help bring all of my predatory wasps to this area. And then also in here are more monardas and echinaceas to assist the pollinators as well. And so yeah, it's just about all the gardens I have. I think that's all the gardens I have, guys. Didn't even take an hour. Look at that. No, but seriously, if any of you watched all the way through, we'll see how things go. Leave a comment if you want more long form. Leave a comment if you want less long form. I think this year, with our plans for how we're looking to manage our time, it may be easier for me to take moments to shoot more video that shows you guys what a section of the gardens looks like at a given time, if you all express interest in it. So yeah, let's do that. Let's put a pin in it and we'll do it. That's its whole thing. It's a whole thing. I'll show you guys later. Promise. Till next time. Thanks for watching. Happy planting.